Director of Design and architect as well. Last time we were here, we kind of outlined to you what our goal was to help you guys identify what your needs are for City Hall, as well as identifying some potential opportunities for your water treatment facility site now that it is been vacated by the company. Today, what you have in your City Council packet is our full deficiencies report with photos, as well as a development feasibility package on the lighter note of sites that we looked at, as well as the City Hall potential sites. But before we get into that, and then also the last 3 pages are the presentation that I will have up on the screen for you as well. So where we left off last time, we were going to do a full City Hall deficiencies report. So we were not only just looking at, do you guys have enough room for City Hall, but looking at code compliance, as well as your structural compliance to code, as well as your mechanical, electrical, plumbing system, how well it's functioning. And immediately, we took photos and identified all the issues that we have looked at. One of the first things that you guys are pretty well aware of is that you are not ADA compliant. Your second floor does not have an elevator. Your stairs have too much of a rise. You're supposed to have a landing at a certain point. That's not there. You even have a sign that says, hey, if you're need assistance to get up to the second floor, please ring the doorbell. So we know that you guys are already aware of some of the ADA issues that you have. There's some threshold issues, door handle issues that are non-ADA compliant as well. We also have some structural deficiency, and our structural engineer reviewed your previous reports, as well as the photos I took of the structural system and looked at the calculations for the existing building. The roof and floor framing are extremely overstressed. There is a potential for collapse where in an event of a seismic activity or a wind a substantial wind activity of over 40 miles per hour. When we say there is an overstress of the second floor only has a load capacity of 70 pounds per square foot, whereas to put it into perspective, a simple short-term storage needs to be at least 120 pounds per square foot. So you don't have the capacity for the load that you are putting on the second floor currently. Those are very significant issues, and those are structural deficiencies are always also the hardest ones to upgrade because they do go all the way down to the foundation and affect multiple layers of the building itself. Energy code wise, it was interesting. There is a chart which I'll flip to on the next page that shows that you guys are low on the energy use index, but we found that you guys are low on the energy use index because half of the equipment is not working. Your ventilation system's not working, your mechanical heating system is not working to its most efficient area. You had cracks at the bottom of your door threshold, so you're letting cold air in or hot air in. So there were some significant deficiencies in that area as well. We also noticed some operational deficiencies. These are just day-to-day activities where you're not able to operate at your best level. So the front entry level, the counters are not ADA height, as well as you don't have enough waiting area. They're also kind of in the element because the utility payment counter as well as the permitting area, they're kind of in that vestibule transition zone, and so it's not the optimal way that you want to function. You're also using, because it was used as a police facility at one time, you're using a safe as a storage unit. There's potential that somebody could get locked in there accidentally or stuck in that room and don't have a way to call for help. So there's just different things. The flow of the building itself can be improved upon. But looking at the overall total deficiencies for this building, we highly recommend that you rebuild the building. Just structurally trying to harden the building, replacing all the mechanical, electrical units, and trying to figure out a better flow for the floor plans itself would cost almost just as much as a brand new building. And therefore, when we presented this deficiencies report and our findings, we quickly started looking at, okay, what are the options and where are the options for building a brand new city hall? So we looked at all the city hall or city-owned properties. That's where we started. That way, you're not incurring costs by purchasing another property. So we identified 3 sites that would fit the program. We are looking at a brand new city hall of approximately 14,000 square feet, and also parking for approximately 30 to 40 parking, public and for the staff themselves. And so we looked at city hall locations and identified the existing locations. What if we were to just rebuild where you currently are? And then we also looked at the water treatment facility site, which is at the southern side of your city boundaries, and then also at Academy Square, where you already have several city amenities. So we had our planning department look at all the development feasibilities, what is the buildable area, what are the appropriate zoning and uses for that site. And the next 3 slides are going to focus on these 3 sites and how we have located them and what the pros and cons are. So before we proceed further, was there any questions about just the deficiencies report or? Okay. Well, feel free to interrupt me at any time. So, do you want to?
Sure. So the first site we're looking at is the water treatment facility. So we've figured this would be a really exciting site to be near that old historic building, and that could have a potential use of either an interpretive center for a park near the canal, which has some history with the city and how it's been used for lumber transportation and power usage over the years. We can see that as a really nice amenity. Maybe there's a walkway that could connect the parks and down to the river. And about the size that we can fit on the site is a 2-story building. Each floor would hold about 12,800 square feet. And like you said, your program is about 14,000. So part of your program would have to go on the first floor. The rest of the floor could be used for retail or other space that could create a museum. That could be really exciting civic gesture as well near that park. We can definitely get the parking that you require here. One of the other advantages we loosely discussed is this kind of bolsters development on the south end of town. There's not a lot of development on the south end of town right now. Most of it's on the north end of town. So those are some of the advantages of this site.
So this, one of the cons that we did identify is because of the nature of the water treatment facility, there are quite a bit of mitigation costs associated with it by removing all those tanks and different things like that. But it is an interesting site. It has some historical significance, and revamping that whole canal is a potential for great addition to your trails system that you guys have. There could be a nice bike trail that continues along the canal. And we also notice you already have a chamber of commerce off of that other side of Main Street as well. So,
may I ask, when you're calculating the square feet, are you including new council chambers in
Yes.
that calculation? Okay.
We are.
What's the size of that site?
It is 1.41 acres.
So moving forward, if you decided not to build a city hall here, it'd be great as a mixed-use building for residential and retail, and there's a number of residences right in that area, and there's a number of restaurants in that area as well, so that could add to that kind of vibe that you already have going on there. So that would be really good use for it.
The next site we looked at was the existing City Hall site. We actually looked at a couple of configurations for the city hall to look at how we can possibly phase the project where we kept the existing city hall. It would have been kind of in this square right here. And your current parking is in this southern portion of the lot. But really, as a Main Street building, you really want your frontage to be, the building to be really facing Main Street. And
right.
so this option does not show a phasing option where you're going to have to temporarily relocate City Hall in order to rebuild this property. But it's not to say that there isn't an option to try and keep the existing City Hall while you're building, but there are significant risks because of the structural deficiencies that you do have to do that.
So this affords you about 9,000 square feet on each floor 1 and floor 2 for a total of 18,000. So again, the city program would have to be split on this site. We only have 24 parking stalls. We identified that we need 30 stalls just for your function alone. And also, it's just a phasing issue too with timing and the amount of time that the city offices and departments would have to be relocated, and there's that cost associated with the lease somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
What's the size of that lot?
It is 0.48 acres, so it's less than half an acre.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So very small. You'll have to also ask for on-street parking in order to meet your parking count. So if you were to decide not to be in this site, this shows also an opportunity for a commercial development to come in and purchase the existing building or purchase the land to redevelop as another commercial entity as well.
Mm-hmm. But some of the advantages are that you're still in the heart of the city, so you're still in the main downtown, the older historic part of the city, and it's right on Main Street. So those are the advantages. It has high visibility within the city.
Right. And then the last site we looked at is Academy Square.
Mm-hmm.
So we understand you guys are already doing some improvements to this site with some monuments and some sidewalks. So we're adding the next layer of revolution of landscape and just overall plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the building size here is 12,800 per floor, and so it gives you a total of 25,600. So lots of room for future flexibility, or obviously this could be phased too. We wouldn't need necessarily promote building it all at once, but you have the site to be able to expand it in the future. And we have 70 parking stalls with this site, so that's plenty of parking for the building.
Can you hold on just a second?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We have some commerce going through.
So the proximity to the other civic functions like the library, the senior center, and the police station is an advantage too. There's kind of a civic hub here, and also the future flexibility to be able to share office space and move departments from one building to the other as needs grow in the future. And then just the connection to the park is a really nice amenity as well.
Mm-hmm.
And is that looking at a single story?
This is looking at 2 stories, so
Story.
12,800 per floor.
Oh, I see. Level
on level
one.
1 and level
Okay.
2.
So with this site, we're also encouraging a further development of the south side of the Academy Square. We see that as a potential for farmers market areas or some city-sponsored activities. And I think you guys have a strawberry fest and different things like that. So these can all be locations to have that amenity. And then one of the things that was identified during the programming exercises to have some secure parking for the city vehicles so that they don't get vandalized. We have plenty of opportunity for that with this site because we're working, this whole entire lot is about 7.39 acres, but we're looking at a chunk of this northwest corner, or northeast corner, I apologize, of 2.3 acres just for parking and that city hall. It's also a great gateway piece. Most people are driving down Highway 20 north and south, so it becomes this nice monument coming into Lebanon as well.
And the tree line in the middle of the parking lot, that's separates existing parking
Yes.
from additional.
Yeah, so right now your existing parking is right to here.
Okay.
But you'll be sharing access in this scenario. Mhm. Yes. So these are the 3 sites that we looked at, and we're now open to just kind of talk about each one, whatever questions you have, and facilitate discussion about which site do you all prefer to see City Hall move to or stay at, whichever the conversation. And we'll do the best we can to answer whatever questions you guys have as well.
With this site and the 2-story being on the northeast corner, people traveling Highway 20, what is that blocking view-wise in terms of the other structures? Senior Center totally blocked?
It would be, but the building on this corner right here on Highway 34 and Main Street is not a very tall building, if I remember correctly, and there's still some view that you can see as you're driving down Main Street, I believe. So it's not impeding any view, I don't think. We're still leaving quite a bit of green space around each building, and therefore we're not taking anything away from each of the buildings.
I really like the idea of all of the civic functions being centralized. I think, Downtown Association likes that City Hall is downtown, but this isn't very far from downtown. I think of all of them, that makes this my preference. Even though you're losing some green space, everybody has good access to each other.
Well, and our historical thoughts were that was what we were thinking back in the day when we did the others, they would be there.
Really?
And wasn't that not done because there was a fear of the bond not passing? Isn't that kind of the main? Yeah, that's what I thought. Because it really should have been done then. It would have been nice, but I like that spot.
Total dollars. That was the
Yeah. Yeah, that spot, I think, I agree with Rebecca that it's a nice spot. It's right coming into town. It's both major intersections, highway. I like the shared parking. I think it's definitely better than the other 2 spots, I think.
my favorite.
Yeah.
I like it because then we can sell the other property where the water treatment
Yes.
plan was to put a really nice IPA place there.
All right.
That
Yes,
was
that's
one of our
perfect.
thoughts too.
Yeah, when we say retail,
Man,
that's
that
what
would
we
be a
mean.
great restaurant there.
Yeah, it would be. It would
That and
be
the old
awesome.
City Hall building, too. That's a prime piece of real estate right there.
No, but not right on the.
Like this. I mean, fun aside,
Yeah.
I think I said something the last time. Gosh, too bad that there's enough room there that we can put a city hall there. I think it's a great idea.
My only hesitation with this is it being 2 stories, and I feel like it's going to tower over the other pieces that are in. I know the library is also, it's got the peaks and it's got a lot of windows, but that would be my one reservation there. And to piggyback on that, how did you guys come up with the square footage? It looks like we're in the range of 26,000 for both.
Yeah, so we wanted to make sure we share something that's apples to apples. So we stopped the size of the City Hall building on Academy Square to what would fit in the water treatment facility site, so that you can compare them apples to apples in that sense. It's not to say that this building cannot be smaller. If you decide you want less space for retail or future growth of any civic amenities to come in. And it's not to say that we can't grow bigger, or maybe tier the first floor and the second floor so that that corner is a 1-story and the back portion is 2-story, so you're not impeding on, the sight lines of certain buildings. There's so many options. This is just one concept.
Did you give any thought at all to staying single-story, period?
We did. It is definitely possible, but we also wanted to show how this project could possibly have different avenues of payment without going out for a bond measure. If you were able to lease the property, a certain portion of your property, to a commercial entity, maybe a coffee shop or a restaurant or a retail shop, then there's some kind of revenue that will help you offset the cost of building as well. And so that's why we have shown it as a larger than needed program element.
I think especially in this setting, people will be sensitive about maintaining green space.
Right.
And so going up maintains
Right, that's,
some
yeah,
of
that's
that.
exactly why
That
we
will
do
be
that.
the complaint.
Plus, if we
Preserve
look
the
at
green
the
space.
architects that did, and I wasn't sure if it was you guys, did you guys do the Justice Center?
No.
No, we did
And
not.
library, okay. So, looking at the Justice Center, I would say it has to look like those.
Oh,
It has to be
absolutely.
similar peaks, and
Yeah.
so it's not just a big squarish
It's a
building.
campus.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
campus, and it fits in with the other one. So I don't think,
The other benefit to building bigger is it gives the city more future expansion room, as we might need more city hall space. It gives us some place to go without having to build in the future.
Well, on the basis of the size, I think, going back to your question, Michelle, so we did what was it, today, a 10-year,
Right.
a 30-year
We
look,
looked at
all
the-
the department directors did, what do we look like? I mean, it was, maybe out here, but that's how the size was developed, and based on what we have for parking.
Yeah, we looked up to 2040 was
Yeah.
the year that we looked up to as far as potential growth. So you're not quickly outgrowing your space.
Right.
and the court will have to be relocated, and there happens to be a new 2-story building that they could go to, as opposed to the top of the,
The Lynn County Court?
yeah, the one that's right now upstairs above the city hall.
All right.
That's another option.
Yep.
Right. So you could continue to lease the.
It doesn't sound too good for our old building.
No.
Unfortunately not, yeah.
Is there any cost estimates associated with any of?
Currently, we have not done a cost estimate. We were hoping to identify one site before we did a cost estimating exercise. But right now, a office space building is running somewhere between $250 to $350 per square foot.
So with the mitigation at the water treatment plant and then the relocation of the existing, I have to think this would be the most economical option.
I would agree
Right.
with you there, yes.
We got a sizable cost in getting rid of that existing treatment plant. That's not going to be cheap.
No, it will not.
Or you sell it and let them,
I doubt
As
anybody's going
is.
to buy it. As
well,
is.
but knowing that, I mean, how many
Yeah.
people buy properties that are junk and they're,
We'll give you $1 to buy it. There you go.
We'd be ahead if we got $1 to buy it, I think, because it's going to take a lot of money, just looking inside and how it's going to come apart.
Yeah.
Chemicals.
Is there,
Oh, there's no chemicals,
is
where are
there
they?
tanks in the ground, or are they all above ground?
There's one, the clear well is underground, so that's going to have to be resolved as well. So there's a lot to do over there.
A lot of different elevation changes.
No, not really. I mean,
Just as you get
you
toward
can
the
be
canal.
fairly flat. I mean, you
Yeah.
kind of come up to the canal bank,
Right.
but I mean, you just start taking that old accelerator and all the piping galleries and all that stuff, and you don't just start pulling it apart. You're probably going to have a structural engineer tell us how to take it apart so it doesn't fall down on somebody. So it's going to be costly.
There's some potential soil issues just because you're right next to the canal. So different things like that you'll have to check out as well.
Any other questions?
Well, this is my choice.
Pretty thorough.
Yep.
Okay.
Did you like the Academy Square one too?
Yeah, I do. I still kind of hung up on the square footage just because it's an extra 10,000 of what we have. Like it's a whole other city hall. I also want to build for the future, but I don't want to, I guess I would want to know what's moving in there that isn't in city hall now to be able to kind of justify that, to people who ask. So.
It's a good point. One of the next steps in their process is they have a finance analysis that they're going to do for the best ways to potentially finance the building. Either it's going to pencil out that this whole lease idea makes sense or it's not. It could either be a plus or a minus as far as my experience goes. So I think it's a wait and see. It might make sense, it might not.
Right.
And I think those are decisions we don't have to make early on. But
No, I think in
Later
terms of
down the
location,
road.
I'm definitely on board for it being there, but
And the
still
two-story
have some
part
reservations.
saves us money, because you build flatter, it's going to cost a lot more money. Isn't that correct? Am I wrong on that?
It
When
could-
you're building 2 stories up, isn't it a little cheaper?
There's a number of advantages. It also helps with your workflow efficiency. Sometimes it's better to be stacked above one another than walk clear across a really large building. Think about a warehouse or something. The time it takes to walk clear across a building versus just jumping down the stair or the elevator. So there's some workflow efficiencies too to keeping the building. So 12,000 square feet is a normal office floor plate in like a downtown scenario. So that's a really good size for efficiency. And then people's access to windows also is greater when you have a smaller footprint. So there's a number of advantages of keeping the footprint smaller. Obviously taking up less site, less foundation, and you're just building extra walls. Same smaller roof size. So there's some advantages when you stay around 2 or 3 stories versus building a really large building on 1 story.
Michelle, to answer one of your questions, one of the new things in the new city hall would be the city council chambers.
Right.
So that's a pretty big
That is
add
sizable.
to that,
Yeah.
because this
Right.
this building is
Yeah.
fairly small in terms of the council chambers. So that's one of the things at the end.
And something else we would recommend when you guys actually do look at, if you choose this site and further go into studies where you're starting to lay out the rooms and different things, before you get to that point, it might be well worth you guys to do a full city department-wise analysis of, okay, does the Justice Center need more space in the future? Does the library need space in the future? Or is there other city amenities that will potentially need to grow, and can they possibly grow into this building as well? So another level of assessment internally of what's the city overall need so that you can capture that in this site might be another option to look at as well.
Yeah, we also discussed other civic amenities like a history center or history museum that somebody could come in and operate that for you, and that would be potentially a lease income if they have sales and ticket sales and gift store sales. So that could be another that would add to the civic nature of this campus.
Anybody who could do a museum. It's funny you mentioned that, because we've started a museum committee,
Okay.
and now we're a foundation, and so we're actually working on a location. Interesting. Okay. Anything else, Karen? And did you like the Academy Square one?
I love it.
Okay. So it seems
Sorry
like
about that.
consensus that the Academy Square is the one we like. Where do we go from here?
Well, from here, we can actually take a look at the building. I know the city manager and I have talked about possibly in October doing a character study with the public, gauging interest from the public of what their desires are, get them excited about the project, and be a little transparent about it.
Our consultants are the same one who worked with the fire district for their upcoming bond measure and the building attached to it. They did a similar public event, which I attended, and I think the mayor attended, and
I did.
Rebecca, maybe you did too. I felt that went well, and it helped the public feel like they were able to participate. So I think we're talking about the same kind of an event.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Seeing no more questions, unless you guys have anything else. Then
So now the next step, next time the council will see these folks would be, I think it's October.
I believe that's the date we set. Yes.
Yeah, we'd be back with your opportunity to, I think it's officially designate Academy Square, am I remembering that right? Yeah, as our future city hall space.
And that'd likely be just in the master plan. So as you adopt the master plan, that would be
Right.
would be as a whole.
okay. All right. Thank you for all your work.
Yeah.
No,
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Looks good. Easy to understand for even me. Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll adjourn the work session.